Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. We start as usual with one of our questions that comes in advance, and then we'll take any question that anyone here might have. A friend of mine is a freelance delivery person and delivers mostly non-veg meals to homes and businesses. She feels horribly guilty about this because, as Gurudev Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of his books, it is wrong to support the killing of animals in any way. The one who grows it, rears them, sells it, delivers it, cooks it, and eats it, they are all wrong. So what is the truth? Is it wrong? So there's a couple things here. We've got the aspect of vegetarianism. But then we also have the aspect of what we call right livelihood. In the Hindu tradition, we speak a lot about dharma and duty. In the Buddhist tradition, they've made a lot of wonderful lists. It's a very organized way of teaching a lot of the same precepts. And one of the lists is about how to live a right life. Now we have what we call yam and niyam. We have all sorts of tenets of how to live a dharmic life. In Buddhism, one of the really core precepts, along with, right speech, right action, is right livelihood. Now in this case, Srila Prabhupada was the founder of the ISKCON movement. He was the one who went to America, carried this beautiful, beautiful divine teaching of Bhagawan Krishna to not just America, I think, but actually a lot of the West. Truly just beautiful, amazing seva. He went over there with, I think, nothing. And just through chanting the name of God, brought together so many people. And he taught the Bhagavad Gita, he taught Bhagavatam, he taught the life and the teachings of Bhagawan Krishna. And he taught a lot of really basic and core tenets and principles. One of which, of course, is that eating meat is, as the questioner said, wrong. Now, on a religious level, we speak about it being wrong for a variety of religious reasons. But what we now know, what we've learned in the many decades since Prabhupada ji first went to America in the think it was the early 70s, is that actually the meat industry is probably the worst thing that you can do as an individual for the environment, for world hunger, for climate change. Animal agriculture, the actual industry of the production of beef, chicken, pork, is the single greatest contributor to global warming. This is as of a United Nations report. The UN did a report called Livestock's Long Shadow on how the meat industry, the way that so many acres are cut down of trees in order to graze cows who will become hamburgers and steaks. So this is a topic we talk about a lot in Satsang, so I won't go into all the statistics and facts and figures about it tonight. I'm sure within the last 2 weeks there will have been a Satsang in which I gave them, so they're all there, easily available. But what we now know since his teaching is that not only is it wrong on a religious and spiritual level, but it's even wrong if you consider yourself an atheist. As long as you understand and believe that other humans are sacred, or at least worthy of your care, as long as you believe that our natural world, our air, our water, our trees are worthy of your care, as long as you believe that children and grandchildren today and future generations should have access to a world with clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, food to eat, vegetarianism is the only choice. But the question isn't about what to eat. The question is about making a living as a food delivery person who's delivering non-veg food. Now, when you look at dharma and you look at duty and you look at right living, you have to take things woven together. So, for example, if you have a duty to children at home or parents at home who are financially dependent on you, you are the sole bread earner of the family, you've got to make a living. Now, if being a food delivery person is the only way you can make a living and feed your family, then you don't actually have the luxury to say, I'm going to let my children starve because I don't want to make a living like this. I think in the hierarchy of dharma, letting your children go hungry is more against dharma than being a delivery person who happens to also deliver non-veg food. But assuming that you're not in a situation where that's the only way you can put food on the table, I think it's really important for all of us to earn that which sustains us, whether we are actually earning money and buying things, whether we are working in a situation where we're being housed and fed in exchange for work, whatever it is, in whatever way that sustenance is coming to you, I think it's critical that we do it all, however we do it, in alignment with Dharma. And so, of course, that includes not stealing from your company, right? It includes not cheating on your time card. It includes not stealing someone else's work, not lying to your employers or your employees. But then there's the level of dharma in the work that you do. And I think that being able to sustain ourselves in alignment with dharma is really critical for living a deeply peaceful and meaningful life. Because if you're working in a factory, let's say, or a corporation, let's say you work in the offices, the corporate offices. You're a low-level clerk or you're a high-level VP or CEO. Either way. And that company has got factories that it's running in third world countries where women and children are working in sweatshops so that the materials can come in cheaper, so the company can make more money. Now you may say, I only deliver the mail, or I only wash the windows, or I'm only the secretary. Like, I don't have anything to do with who gets hired or fired or employed or what they're paid. But nonetheless, through the hours of your day, even if all you're doing is delivering the mail, that company is sustaining itself. And as that company sustains itself, the women and the children are being oppressed and repressed and harmed. And so in the same way that we use our money, our dollars, our rupees, our euros, to buy products that are in alignment with our beliefs. So for example, we don't buy products that are tested on animals. Who wants something that had to pass tests by being rubbed into the eyes of bunny rabbits or rubbed on their skin? Like, why? There's so many natural, friendly, earth-friendly, animal-friendly brands of shampoo or conditioner or soap or moisturizer or whatever it is that we're using, that they test all of this stuff on animals. Well, we buy non-violent options. We use our money to support that which we believe in. We don't buy from companies who are employing women and kids in sweatshops as slave laborers. We don't buy from companies who are polluting our air, our water, our soil. Because by putting money in their company, you are supporting the company. By buying the goods, you're supporting the company. But we don't choose only with our money, we also choose with our time. I mean, out of personal resources that we have, we've got our time, we've got our abilities, our skills, and we've got our money. I mean, that's really on a pragmatic level, not the level of love and blessings and joy, but on the very tangible, pragmatic level. There's three things that we have to move through the world with: our time, our abilities, our money. And you really want to make sure that all of those are in alignment with what you believe in. If you're bringing home money from a company that you know is harming the world, that's not going to sit right with you. So when Buddhism speaks about right livelihood, they're not talking about it just from a karmic standpoint of, be careful what sort of karmic fruits you're getting. They're talking about it from a very deep standpoint of your own awakening, your own enlightenment, your own nirvana. How can you be progressing toward nirvana, toward samadhi, toward enlightenment, if through your life and your choices there's suffering? And so I would say to the questioner, there's a reason that this has arisen in your life, in your mind, in your heart. Surely there are other, delivering food is a low-skill profession. Surely there are other low-skill professions that you could get. And if you can't, if you've tried and you can't, then keep doing it, because your first dharma is to put food on the table. But keep looking. Or maybe try to get some skills that you can use for skilled work. Then of course you will end up being more fulfilled also in your life. And you won't have these burning questions of whether your time, your skills, your money are going into something that's harming our planet. Because we always have choices. And we should make our choices in alignment with what we believe. Does anyone here have any questions?
Guruma, I just want to ask one question. How to develop abhayam, fearlessness?
Beautiful. So, excuse me. So how do we develop fearlessness, abhayam? This is a core teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. Be fearless, be fearless, be fearless. It's a core teaching of so many of the spiritual gurus, guides, saints, rishis. Fearlessness, though, it doesn't mean recklessness. A lot of times people think fearlessness means that I will jump off buildings, jump out of airplanes. I remember when I first came here, I used to get into, we'll euphemistically call them discussions, but they were somewhat more heated than that, with one of the old drivers from here, who was a young guy, young kid, and he loved to drive really fast. And these were in the days before cars in India had seat belts. Or if they did, it was before there were laws that you actually had to wear them, so people would cut them out, they would put them behind the seat, because of course nobody wanted to be bothered by it. He would drive fast, I would tell him to slow down, I would make him, take the car into the shop to pull the seatbelt out so it actually could work. And every time I would tell him to slow down, he would tell me to have faith in God. And so being an American vocal scientist who wasn't going to be told how to live by a teenager with a fast car, I would say to him, I do have faith in God. And God has told me to tell you to slow down. But I share the story because there's this idea that somehow fearlessness means that I will sit in cars that are going really fast without telling the driver to slow down, without wearing a seatbelt. I will take all kinds of daredevil risks. Put all my money in one stock on a hunch. That I'll do things like that because fearlessness is seen as a virtue. But fearlessness is not recklessness. It doesn't have anything to do with making decisions that put your life, this precious life, in peril. Fearlessness has to do with standing up to accept the invitation that the universe has given you to embody and express who you are. So fearlessness means share your heart, share your gifts, speak your truth, walk your path. The universe will take care of you. You do not need to live your life in shackles based on what the neighbors think, based on what the culture says, based on what someone else's agenda is for your life. Do not be worried. What will people think of me if I speak my truth, if I live my truth? That's the fearlessness he's talking about. And I'll tell you how I know for sure. Aside from all of the brilliant commentary on these teachings, but if you actually look at the teaching itself, so here in the midst of Bhagavan Krishna telling Arjuna, be fearless, when Arjuna says, but I could die, Bhagavan Krishna does not say, no, you won't, don't worry. Now, as I always say, I love this part because remember, he's God. He knows what's going to happen. He's not on pins and needles waiting to see at the end of each day, kya ho gaya. He's God, he knows. He sees everything. But he doesn't tell Arjuna how easy it would be to say to him, don't worry, my friend. Trust me, I'm God. You're not going to die. But he doesn't tell him that. He says, yeah, you might. Meaning, fearlessness does not mean nothing's going to happen to you. The fearlessness is about doing his dharma. He says to die. Engaged in your dharma is far better than to live for hundreds of years but never fulfill your dharma. That's the fearlessness he's talking about, not go out there, stand bare-chested, let them shoot their bows and arrows at you, and don't worry, because, hey, God's your chariot. I'll make sure nothing happens. He doesn't say that. And so, from this we realize fearlessness is that which we need to stand up and live our deepest, highest, most surrendered lives. Because fear is what keeps us living in boxes. Fear is that which says, if I quit my job delivering non-veg food, how will I make a living? I'm not good enough to do anything else. I don't have any skills. I'm not good enough to, go to school or online school to develop a skill, to believe in myself that I actually could contribute to the universe in another way. What's going to happen to me? Fear is that which says I cannot speak my truth because they will laugh at me. they will reject me. Fear is that which says, I can't trust myself. That inner voice telling me, I'm not meant to be an engineer. I'm meant to be an artist, a musician, a monk. Fear is that which says, if I don't make a lot of money, get this status, make a name for myself, look out for myself, I will not be taken care of. That's what fear says. Fearlessness says, you know what? There is an intelligence in the universe, a divine knowing in the universe that pervades all of creation. It's how caterpillars become butterflies. It's how seeds become trees. It's how birds know to jump off roofs because they can fly, but dogs never jump off roofs because they can't fly. There's an intelligence, there's a knowing, and it pervades me as well. And fearlessness is knowing that knowing inside of you is divine. And so the way to develop that is faith. That faith within your own self. The faith that says God does not make mistakes. I'm not the one He forgot about. I'm not the one that He got distracted. I'm not the one who somehow is the exception to the rule of everyone is divine. But faith is to realize, however I've been created is exactly how I am supposed to be. And yeah, I've got issues and I work with them, and anger and expectation and attachment and fear and desire and jealousy, and we've all got them. We work with them. The same way that we soap up our bodies, the same way that we walk to stay in shape, the same way that we, eat the right food. The same way that we work with the organs of our bodies or the dirt on our skin. We work with our, internal stuff. But it doesn't mean that I am any less divine because my arms are dirty and I've got to soap them up. Or because my stomach's bad because I ate, too much chocolate cake. Well, in the same way, just because I've got this anger thing happening or this jealousy thing happening, it just needs to be dealt with in its own way, the way that, mud on your arm is dealt with or a bad stomach is dealt with. We look at it. We see what it is. We address it. In some cases, time will take care of it. In some cases, we address it in some more direct way. But it doesn't change the nature of who I am as divine. So that's where the fearlessness comes. But don't expect it to be that which is going to send you bungee jumping. It's going to be that which is going to enable you to share yourself, express yourself, be yourself, know yourself. That's the fearlessness. Does anyone else have a question? Yes, and then you. Aapko yahan bhi hai.
Namaste. So in my yoga TTC, I'm reading Patanjali Yoga Sutra these days, where he says that a true yogi or a seeker is someone who knows how to control the fluctuations of mind. I know there are 10,000 distractions waiting for me when I go back. So how do I apply this theory in the current times where there are 10,000 distractions in 10 minutes?
Beautiful. So, controlling the mind and the distractions. There's an external way and an internal way. And you need to do both. Externally, you need to do whatever you can to minimize your distractions. So the first thing I would suggest is turn off all notifications on your phone except for when it actually rings. Nothing else should beep, buzz, bling, vibrate. Whenever you need to check if you've got a message, you'll check to see if you've got a message. If somebody's house is burning down, they'll call you. They're not going to just text you, hey, could you please send the fire department? Hope you see this soon. They're going to call. Any emergency, we call. Nobody texts in an emergency. We call. So the first thing I would do is turn off every sound-making notification on your phone, except for the ring. The next thing I would do is I would create as much of a daily schedule as you can about when you are going to engage with things that are by nature distracting. Your email, your messages, your social media. We've all got to do it. But have some times of the day, depending on your work, depending on, your lifestyle. But it shouldn't be that there's a message and we immediately jump to it. There's lots of research these days on focus and productivity and attention, and actually how, even with all of our new technology, we are significantly less productive than we were 20 years ago. We get less done every day than we did 20 years ago. Now, it seems like we're getting a lot more done, because see, I've messaged this one, I've done this, but we actually get a lot less done. And the reason is, every time you get distracted from a task, they say it takes you 23 minutes. Now, I've tested myself. It doesn't take me 23 minutes. I mean, maybe it does neurologically and I'm just not aware of it, but from my own experience, but it takes me a good 2 to 3 minutes to get back in the flow of what I was doing. Sometimes a little bit longer if what I was doing was really creative. I mean, if I'm writing, it's going to take maybe 10 minutes to get back in the flow. But even so, even a 2 or 3 minute to get back in the flow of something I'm doing that's not necessarily that creative. Well, that's a lot of 2 or 3 minutes when it happens every 10 minutes. You're essentially then spending a third of your life getting back on track. And it's hard. I mean, this is something on a personal level I struggle with. Like, how do you navigate it all? And what I have found is if you can just decide, like, okay, for the next hour, 2 hours, I'm not going to look at messages. I'm not going to look at my emails. I'm going to do this thing that I need to get done. What you'll find is that you actually are more productive. And that when you do pick up your phone again or open your email again 2 hours later, you're able to get through it quickly because there isn't so much back and forth. But it just takes some planning and it just takes some deliberateness in it. The other thing I would do is don't multitask. Multitasking has been shown, again, this is by recent science, to again make us significantly less productive. We think we've become so productive. People will say that they can do lots of things at once. They can't. What they're doing is jumping rapidly back and forth between different things, not actually doing any of them well, making lots of mistakes. And so, and this is true for all of us, just really figure out, okay, for the next 15 minutes, 2 hours, I'm not going to look at a message or an email until this task is done. I'm not going to start another task until this task is done. And from a meditative perspective, things like walking, eating, where we tend to try to make use of the time, right? I've got to walk from here to there. Well, I might as well check my messages and don't. Use it as a way to just reconnect with the breath. Reconnect with the moment. A, texting while you walk is dangerous. But B, it's really bad for the mind. Just allow yourself, just walk. Feel the earth. Watch your breath. Same when you eat. Don't watch TV. Don't be on your phone. Just eat. Just eat. Be with it. Be present. Food is God. I heard you all in there eating the other night chanting the Bhojan mantras, right? Brahma Pranam, Brahma Havir, Brahma Gano Brahmanahutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Kardam Samadhina. This experience of eating, right? This is the divine. This isn't just a task to get done. This is the divine. The divine is feeding and the divine is eating. I heard you all doing all the beautiful mantras. The divine is feeding the divine. Of the divine. Well, this is not something to be distracted while it's happening. So just eat. That's the external stuff. Put all of these practices in place. But then you've still got, of course, your mind, which in and of itself jumps around. And this is where the power of a mantra is so powerful. Because if you give the mind something to do, it will do it. And so if you have a mantra given by a guru, it's doubly powerful because then it comes with that power of the guru. But even if you don't, you've learned so many mantras. You could choose one of those, which are obviously longer mantras. Or you can just choose, what we call the sort of mool mantras. The more basic, fundamental, foundational mantras. You can choose mantras based on a different divinity. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right? There's so many beautiful, beautiful options. Choose a mantra. And again, if you've got one or have the opportunity to get one from the guru, doubly powerful, 10 times as powerful. But if not, Just chant a mantra. Choose one. And just keep chanting it, keep chanting it, keep chanting it, keep chanting it. And you'll find that the mind anchors itself into the mantra. And it just stops the habit of jumping all over the place. Good. Of course. Of course. Yes.
Hari Om. Thank you so much for the opportunity for the satsang, for you, Guruji, and Sivananda Saraswati ji. And I just want to thank you that you're such a blessing in disguise globally for implementing and creating a difference and inspiring women and men to get into the spiritual line in a scientific way. And I'm a big fan of Bruce Lipton. And my question today is, how do we transcend this for the highest yogic practitioners? How there's a concept of transcending time and space. So being a normal person or a highest practitioner, what is that actually? Can you help me understand?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, I hope I'm not too much in disguise. Try not to be in disguise too much. I try to be just there as is. This transcending of time and space. Oh, and for those of you online who are wondering about that, that was because she was very lovingly, she said that I was a blessing in disguise for people around the world. And so I hope I'm not in too much disguise. But this transcending of time and space, what it really means is transcending the identification of the body. Because matter is dependent, is subject to laws of time and space. But the self, the true self, is not bound by either time or space. So in order for us to transcend that, is for us to disidentify as the body. So for example, when we recite that beautiful prayer of Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. That last line of it, oh God, lead me from death to immortality. Well, it doesn't mean make this physical body immortal. It doesn't mean make this body the one that defies your laws of matter. That's not what it means. What it means is lead me from the identification, the falsehood, the darkness, the ignorance of the identification as the one who is born, changes, and dies, to the identification as the one who was never born, never changes, never dies. The identification as that soul, as that divine being. So transcending time and space is identifying as, connecting with that aspect of ourself, that truth of ourself that isn't bound, that never was bound, that doesn't know boundaries, because it's boundless. When we have that connection, then we've transcended it. Doesn't mean that the body doesn't continue to move through time, doesn't continue to age in time. It doesn't mean that the body can be in 1,000 places or even 2 places simultaneously. But there are beautiful stories of saints with these siddhis of being able to, manifest a body wherever their soul has gone, being in a second place at the same time. There's several stories of this. There's a saint who used to come through here when Pujya Swamiji was young, who would be here, and people in Uttarkashi would swear that they saw him bathing in Ganga at the same time. So, when you realize that which we consider matter is really space and energy. I mean, this human body, for example, that is theoretically matter, is really mostly space and energy. The amount of matter in this body is minuscule, microscopic. I mean, they say that if you took all the people on the planet, maybe even everything on the planet, I can't remember exactly, but it's like if you took at least all the people and you removed the space from them and you only took the actual matter, everyone in the universe, that the sum total of that matter wouldn't even fill a teaspoon. That mostly were space. I mean, and if you look at an atom, which is what ultimately is the not lowest level, but most fundamental level of which we are made on a physical level. Well, you've got this tiny little nucleus with the protons and neutrons. Then you've got all this space. And then you've got electrons that are whirling around it in space. So if you imagine that that's what we're made up of, well, the matter is just in this tiny little nucleus and a tiny little bit of something spinning around at great speed. And the overwhelming, vast majority of it is all space. And so I mention this because when we hear these stories of these enlightened beings being able to do all kinds of miracles, well, all they're doing is moving energy. Moving energy. And a tiny little bit of matter. Well, we know that we've got the ability to change things energetically. I mean, the sound of our voice, every time we speak, it's energy. It's sending out sound waves into the world. I am creating energy into the world of sound. That's just one way. And being able to work with energy in the world, I mean, this is what healing is made of. It's what Reiki is made of. It's what Qigong is made of. It's what so much is made of. And so for enlightened beings to be able to work with a little bit of it and kind of create another experience of space and energy that looks like their body, that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me they can do that. It's just working with energy. You know, I mean, we know if you take water, remove a hydrogen, you've got hydrogen peroxide. Right? Simple science thing. One thing into another thing. why would we be surprised that our masters couldn't work with elements in the world the way that school children learn to do over Bunsen burners? Of course they can. So I think that also is a piece of it. But for most of us who don't have those abilities, it comes with the identification of that within ourself, which is the space, the energy, the soul, the divinity, rather than identifying as this microscopic amount of actual matter that we are made up of. And I think that's how we would transcend it. Of course. Of course. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening. A beautiful morning and day to our global family joining us from all over the world. Looking so forward to being together again tomorrow. And until then, sending you all so much love.